Well, with that, let's bring in our panel for this evening. Lori Turnbull is a professor of political science at Dalhousie University. Michele Cadario is a Liberal strategist and executive vice president at Rubicon Strategy. Beside her, Jordan Paquet, Conservative strategist and vice president at Blue Sky Strategy Group. And George Soule is an NDP strategist and founder and principal at On Step Strategies, a panel I like to call Three Strats and One Lori. Hello to the four of you.
Good one.
Just to make sure no one's confusing, you're not a political strategist, Lori. But I want to begin with the holdouts because, as I said, the Liberals were in a minority position, helped along here by those who did not vote, and to that we're talking about Conservative Shannon Stubbs, who, by the way, her office confirmed that she was on medical leave for surgery that was scheduled before the budget was announced. But along with her, Matt Jenneru, Lori Idlout of the NDP, and Gord Johns. When I say those names, quick go around the table. Do any of those names surprise you that they abstained essentially from this vote, Lori?
No. I think that we probably knew that in order to get the budget through, that the NDP would have a couple of people who didn't participate, because I think it was really important for the NDP to have a stance that was against, frankly, and not for. I think that helps to kind of differentiate themselves from the relationship they've had with Liberals over the past number of years. I think it makes sense for the party, but they didn't want to tank the government over it, and so they had a couple of people sit it out. Shannon Stubbs, as you said, has a medical situation where she wasn't going to be attending. And I didn't think Matt Jenneru was going to show up for this to vote. Absolutely not. Like, if he stepped away at the timing that he did, and it created this big splash, I couldn't imagine that he would show up, whether in person or online, to cast a vote.
Okay, I want to pick up at Matt Jenneru because I have to say that is a name that surprised me, considering the Conservative Party did, by all accounts, worked very hard to make sure he did not cross the floor last week. Why should we not be surprised that he did not vote this time around, Jordan?
I think he's just taking some time. I mean, I don't know exactly what's happening, but I think he's just a little break. A couple weeks ago would have obviously been very, very tough. He would have had everyone from media to pundits to apparently Liberals calling and Conservatives calling, everybody calling, trying to call his family and stuff like that. So I think just taking a bit of a break, taking some time off. He said that he's going to be around till the spring. So no, I agree with Lori. I wouldn't read too deeply into much of this. I think this is just a matter of basically all the parties in Parliament determining that there's no appetite for an election, basically amongst any party. It's a risk for anybody, and I think that's why we saw the result of the vote that we did today.
But any political repercussions for Matt Jenneru for not voting against this budget?
I don't think so. I mean, he's already said that he's stepping down, so in the spring. So I don't think there's anything more that they can really do with that. Matt's a great guy. He's been a great parliamentarian, and I think the party definitely wishes him very well in the future.
Okay, and you're nodding as well, so you're not surprised by the fact that he did not cast a ballot this time?
I would have been flabbergasted if he showed up, like absolutely flabbergasted. And if he did show up, I'm not sure which way he would have voted. I would have been very surprised. After, as Lori said, after everything that happened last week, there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of attention and focus on him and him alone, really more so than the budget itself. And he's kind of made his stance. He's getting out of politics. I don't know that it's a break or a forced break or however you want to call it, but he's not in Ottawa anymore. And so I think that he was the one vote that you could count on. I think that the math was always going to work out. The Prime Minister seemed to be pretty confident all day. It's just like that niggle in the back of your mind, like, are they really thinking this through? And all those, some of the switch votes where they weren't kind of recorded necessarily correctly on the online, that was a little off, a little stressful. But no one wants an election, as Jordan said.
Yeah,
although,
and as we were saying before we went on air, I think we all expected it would pass, but there's that 1-2% that you're thinking, okay, is this going to be an accidental election? But still, I do have to question the government on this one. I know, George, you've been talking about this because, here we have a minority government who essentially presents a budget. Instead of trying to create an alliance with one of the opposition parties, it creates a budget and presents it as if it has a majority government. Does this expose Liberal hubris?
Well, I think for sure. I mean, had we gone to an election, it would have been the government's fault. It's their job to govern, and that, period. There's no other question around that. It's their job when they're in a minority government to find the votes. And instead what you found was the other parties kind of saving Mark Carney from himself in some ways today. Yes, and I think, for whatever it's worth, I know that Gord Johns and Lori Idlout both want to have their abstentions noted, because I think there was some balance in this budget. While it was not a budget that the NDP wanted to support, there were a few items that matter a lot to Gord Johns, for instance, that were there, and there was some stuff for the North, even though there were also cuts for Inuit children. So it was a mixed bag, which is where those two landed. But we also saw, for instance, Andrew Scheer, who had some technical difficulties and voted at the end because he was waiting to get the head count before he said how he was going to vote. I think he was ready to abstain had that been necessary. So you had both the major opposition parties having to save Mark Carney from an accidental election. And I think there's going to be a lot more confidence votes coming up. And I think that Mark Carney shouldn't take from this that he's got it in the bag. I think he should learn that he can't count on these people every single time because they might pull back.
Yeah, you're nodding yes on this one.
100%. I think that this is a moment where, as we've said, nobody wanted to go to election right now. And so this will come and go. But I'm really curious about Mark Carney's attitude toward Parliament more broadly. And not to make this all about this right now, because we're talking about other things, but he's going to leave again tomorrow, right? Like to get up and of course, he's going to go to G20. He's going to go and keep pushing on his agenda of building new trade partnerships and things like that. But at the same time, I'm not sure that Parliament is the center of the universe for Mark Carney. I don't think it keeps him awake at night that most of the members are not on his side. I think he'd take a majority if he could get it. If he had to go to election, fine. There's nothing else he could do about it. But I don't think that he's itching to hit the polls. I think that he is concentrating on other kinds of centers of power. And I don't think that the count in Parliament, again, is something that's really going to stress him out a whole lot.
Okay, I wonder what your reaction to that is, Michele, and whether or not you think that is a pitfall for this Prime Minister.
Well, I don't think that Mark Carney went into government to be a parliamentarian. I will completely agree with you on that, 100%. He came in because he's an economist who thinks that the country's in a bad economic spot, and that he maybe has the skills and the experience that can kind of guide us out of that. And that's how he's going about his business, right? He has no experience. He wasn't elected a long time ago. He hasn't spent time on the back benches, nor do I think he'd do particularly well doing that, right? Like, let's be honest. But he, there's a certain reality that he doesn't have the necessary votes. And so, now he's in a strong position. He's 25 points ahead of our party, or 25 points ahead of Pierre Poilievre in terms of popularity. Canadians don't want an election. And I'm not sure that the opposition did him any favors because they're not in a position to go to an election either, right? Like, everybody was kind of doing what was in their own best interest for their parties and, quite frankly, for the country because Canadians didn't want an election. Is that always going to be true? At some point, interests might start to diverge. And then the political skills are going to have to kind of come out or be shown, or we plunge into election.
Yeah. And you can get in on that, Jordan, but I want to add to it the fact that when we watch the Conservatives this time around, and we know the Conservatives can be tough to an opposition party that's willing to work with the governing Liberals. We saw it with the way Pierre Poilievre attacked Jagmeet Singh and the NDP when they were supporting the True Liberals. We did not see the same fervor this time around from Conservatives. And I'm wondering what that indicates, whether or not that's indicative of turmoil within Conservative ranks, uneasiness with the polling numbers, in particular, to Michele's point, preferred Prime Minister, because Pierre Poilievre is 20 points behind the Prime Minister there. How do you explain this lack of fervor for the Conservatives? Because quite frankly, if Pierre Poilievre wanted to bring down this government, he could have worked harder to do so.
Sure, but I think as we've all been saying, like, it just wasn't in anyone's interest to call an election this time. And I don't think it was a Conservative interest to go to an election right now either, because we just had an election. Nothing markedly has changed really since that time. The Conservatives want to fight this out for a little bit longer, let Carney settle into the job a little bit more, and as he said himself, don't judge me on certain things. Judge me on the prices on what's going to be in the grocery store, and judge me on actual affordability measures. Well, if we look at this 6 months from now, and affordability hasn't gotten better, if the housing crisis hasn't gotten better, and the NDP has a new leader, then the things could be totally different, and things stack up for the opposition to bring it down. I liken this back to in the 2006 days. Liberals had just been defeated out of government. Stephen Harper had a minority parliament, but he didn't have to do a ton of horse trading. He kind of just presented semi-middle of the road budget, and people just kind of voted for it because nobody wanted to go to the polls. I liken that more as happening this time.
Was it 08 the
Once- That was
prorogation?
later.
Oh,
That was later
okay,
on.
sorry,
Later
sorry,
on.
okay.
Yeah, later on.
Okay,
Yeah.
my
that was the
confusion.
08 one, but the first couple passed that.
Okay, I thought you said 08. I thought you said 08, to my
Yeah.
defense.
06 was the first. Yeah.
Okay, but you know, when you look at the Conservatives, though, because again, Pierre Poilievre could have worked harder to bring down a government. We've seen it before, or at least try to, when the polling numbers were in favor. Does that indicate anything to you, George?
Well, you have Matt Genera, who, I mean, the rumors across Ottawa, I'm not going to talk about them here on TV, but none of them are good about why he was pushed out. And it seems like there was a deal kind of done up for him to be able to walk out peacefully in the spring. And you're not going to see him till then for sure. He's just going to collect his paycheck and hide away from the people who are threatening him, I think. And you've got the floor crosser. And again, we know for sure there was at least one more who was ready to go, who has been held back. And who knows who else is out there. I think let's just be honest about this. The Conservatives are having a lot of problem in their own backyard, and Pierre Poilievre's numbers are not at all where they were 6 months ago. That is the only thing that has changed significantly, is how much his personal numbers have dropped. The next election is his last election to kind of secure his leadership. Either he becomes prime minister or he's done. And so he wants to make sure that happens on the best footing, and now is a long way away from his best shot at it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if this creates almost a cakewalk situation for the government, though, Lori, because and I think this was maybe a bit of the calculus in the back. You know, they present a budget, even though they're a minority government, they present a budget as if they're a majority, because they make the calculus, the political calculus, that no one's going to want to pull the plug in this parliament in this moment in time. Does that create a bit of a cakewalk situation for this government for a while, Lori?
I'm not sure for a while. I don't think that I don't think where they are really going to make their progress is going to be necessarily in Parliament. Like the major projects office stuff, there was a piece of legislation that pushes that through. That's a framework. That's a governance framework. That promises nothing. Now they have to figure out each major project. Where's the private financing going to come from? How are they going to get agreement among groups around? How are they going to push it through over the 2 years? There's a weird, I don't know what's going on with the governance of that thing where the Prime Minister says he's going to recommend projects, and then he's recommending them to the major projects office, and then they're figuring out what they're going to do with it, and then they recommend something back. I'm like, what the hell's going on, right? Like, are you recommending things to yourself? It's a weird thing happening, but none of it is happening in Parliament. And so it just seems to me that the approach of the government is actually taking a lot of the decisions that are going to make or break this government. They're actually happening somewhere else. They're happening in an office like that where, again, they're trying to find the finance, they're trying to find the private partners, they're figuring that all out. And if he's not able to put these things up in the window and say, okay, we've approved for real, you know, these things are designated as national interest projects, the premiers are on board, there are private sector investors. That's the type of thing that I think he needs to happen. And if that doesn't happen soon-ish, then the kind of math you're talking about in terms of, you know, this sort of cakewalk for the government, I think that could evaporate. As we know, a couple of weeks is a long time in politics. 6 months from now, a year from now, I'm not sure it's going to look the same for the government. I don't know.
Does anybody want to add on to that at all?
Well, I think what I would say is I don't think that he was looking short term in this budget, right? Everything that he's doing is a much longer term thing.
Yeah.
His challenge, and you're right, he's got to actually sell that he has a plan. And he's got to be having some benchmarks along the way so that there's measurable progress so that Canadians can see that and that they can kind of evaluate it as he goes along. I don't know that just, you know, he set up these different offices and that, but it's not that how government is functioning has changed all that much since the 20 years that I was there, right? You set the budget and then really the departments kind of go away and you figure out what you're funding, you figure out what you're not funding, you implement the programs and that kind of thing. It's a different kind of legislature, I guess, maybe from the start of it when we were making laws about absolutely everything, but now it's very much, it's a financial picture, it's a financial structure of how you're going to spend taxpayer money and it's an accountability of how you did. And so, you know, where I agree that he is, you know, going to be judged by the major projects and that, what I would say though is unless there are actual things that people are seeing, so they're going to start, you know, even as these projects are in the early stage of development, they're seeing jobs, right? It's not the major jobs, but it's a lot of jobs that are kind of in the pre-construction phase. He's trying to, it's an open window to say, come to Canada and invest here, right? This is a way to kind of do it. And I think that so much of that major projects office was a signal to the world and to world investors not necessarily to Canadians. Now he has to tie the two together.
Mark Carney's not used to, sorry, real quickly, Mark Carney's not used to having short-term goals, though, right? Like, he is used to having a job where he can just say whatever he wants to say and say, like, 6 years from now, things will be better because we're going to follow this.
Which is a problem in politics.
And in politics, he doesn't have that kind of time. So it's exactly, like, he can set up all this, like, ground foundational stuff he wants. But as you're saying, like, if it doesn't turn around quickly, people aren't going to see it, and that's how he's going to fail. This whole Prime Minister CEO thing, like, he doesn't usually, and he's also not used to people pushing back, because when they push back, he says, I don't care, I'm the boss, I'm moving forward. But now, those people who were pushing back actually control whether or not he continues as Prime Minister, and I think that is something he's got to get used to, or he'll be out of a job.
Well, and he's running out of fiscal room too, frankly. I mean, that's a complete misspending over the last 10 years, and now this, like, wildly quickly, let's change the accounting methods because, you know, this makes the numbers look better. If there is an economic downturn in the future, hopefully there's not, where's any of that stimulus money going to come from? I mean, because he's already pretty stretched right to the limit right now.
Okay.
Well, but we're in better shape than anyone else in the G7. Like, we're actually not at the limit. I was in government that was at the limit. I was there when the bond markets were saying, get your act together, Canada. This is not that time. There is a lot of fiscal room. Absolutely. He's getting the spending under control, which is, again, what the bond markets want to see.
I don't think it's under control with an $80 billion deficit.
We shall see. The promise is out there. Listen, I'm quickly running out of time, but a quick go around here. I'm wondering this drama of tonight, this potential of an accidental election. What does it say to you, and very quickly with each one of you, about the longevity of this Parliament, George?
I think it's, yeah, we're looking at 6 months to a year, I think, max. I think there's another confidence vote tomorrow. I think it'll be fine, but they're going to keep coming, and I don't think the government can count on them for long.
Lori?
A week ago, I would have said, I wonder if he's going to claw his way to a majority, because I just wasn't sure how things were toing and froing and whether there would be more movement. But now I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's just a feeling or what, but it seems that things have kind of calmed down a little bit. Maybe it depends on what happens in the next couple of weeks. I think if Poilievre gets to a leadership review, he's fine. So, you know, it could be that, it could be that.
This spring?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Weird, but yeah.
Michele?
We're going long. 3 years. Yep, 3 years. Long time.
Okay. Jordan?
I predict perhaps in the next budget. I think, you know, the NDP will have a new leader. Pierre Poilievre will still be leader of the Conservative Party. Oddly, I think the issue of Chris D'Entremont crossing the floor seemed to have emboldened a lot of Conservatives to actually support the leader. If there's one thing they don't like, it's somebody switching teams like that. And so I think that really sort of bound most of them together, of a lot of them I'm talking to. So I think he'll go in past the leadership review quite handily. And, we'll get through the spring. But now that the budgets are all in the fall, because of the change in accounting stuff, I think next fall.
Okay, next fall. I will say it's been a night of drama. Thank you very much for being a part of this. We avoided an accidental election. George, Lori, Michele, Jordan, thank you very much.
Thank you.